The Philadelphia Eagles did not really end the season the way a lot of us Eagles fans were expecting. But don't worry, they did great coaching hires in Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio, in my opinion. And I think we're going to have a great offseason. And this is exactly how I think the Eagles should go about their offseason, what signings they should make, who they should let walk, who they should re sign, a couple trade targets in there. And then we'll go ahead and get into a 7 round mock draft at the end and our rebuild, quick little, off-season rebuild of the Eagles to hopefully get back into Super Bowl contention next year. Anyways, let's go ahead and get right into the offseason here at first. Getting right into it, I don't want to make this a long-winded video. We're going to get into some of the guys I think that are free agents I think we should re-sign. And the first three names that come up are Kelsey, Cox, and Brandon Graham. Those three dudes, I think the Eagles, if they want to come back, I think they should bring them back. Like Kelsey, obviously, if he wants to come back, hey man, we will sign you to another 1 year, $15 million deal or whatever we were giving you last year. We'll run it back if he wants to come back. Same with Fletcher Cox. I think he was actually like Fletcher's probably the most consistent defensive lineman on the entire team last year, so I would happily bring Fletcher Cox back for another year if he wants it. And then Brandon Graham made it already kind of known that he wants to come back. He said he wants to kind of do like a little farewell tour. I'd happily have Brandon Graham back as a situational kind of pass rusher, rotational kind of guy. He was very good still last year for his age. Obviously, he's not like OG Brandon Graham back like when we won the Super Bowl, but he's still a very good productive player that any of those three guys, I assume one or two of them are going to retire. Like I said, BG's probably coming back. Kelsey and Cox, I don't really know which one of those dudes are going to retire versus come back. But if either one of them wants to come back, I would happily sign them to a deal and bring them back for another year. The next guy I would re-sign is Olamide Zaccheaus OZ. I think like when everyone looked like they were kind of giving up at the end of the year, if there's one dude that you would watch that was playing hard every down and bringing everything, it was OZ, man. This dude, the one play that just sticks in my mind that I would re-sign him for one play would be in that Giants game. The first time I played the Giants on Christmas, if you remember, Eagles fans know exactly what play I'm talking about. Devontae Smith scores a crosser touchdown, long touchdown, and Olamide Zaccheaus is 40 yards downfield blocking his dude into the end zone. And that's just the kind of stuff that I love. This dude was always fighting, always playing hard, and I would happily bring him back as a rotational receiver. I don't know if he's gonna ever step up and be like a true wide receiver 3 that gets it all, but like as a rotational dude, I mean, I would love to bring OZ back. He was fun to watch when he was on the field. Jack Driscoll, another dude I would love to re-sign. I'll put Jack Driscoll and Sua Opeta, two dudes who are free agents that I think are just good depth rotational linemen. I don't think they're going to be starters. And if they're out there asking for like starter lineman money, yeah, I'd let them walk. But if they would come back for a year or two on a cheaper deal as like a rotational dude, I would happily have both back because especially Sua Opeta he was just kind of throwing the fire. Landon Dickerson started go hop in, Jurgens started go hop in. I thought he played fairly well in those times when he was just thrown into the fire. You're hoping Tyler Steen can kind of step up and be that rotational guard this year. But so that Sewell Pett is kind of a guy, depending on how the Eagles, like, we didn't get to see Tyler Steen a lot. So depending on how the Eagles organization feels about it, if they think Steen is ready to step up and play reps next year, we can let Opeta walk, and I think we're fine with Steen being that rotational guy. But especially if Kelsey retires, Jurgens moves to center, Steen moves to starting guard, we don't really have any depth. So I'd love to have Opeta back as a dude who could play left and right guard. And then Driscoll, I thought, like, even though he wasn't the greatest tackle, when Lane Johnson got hurt, he stepped in there. He was at least decent, He wasn't just getting torched. So I would happily bring Driscoll back on a short, lower money deal. But if he wants big money, yeah, you can kick rocks, buddy. But next up, Braden Mann, the punter. I think he was he was an incredible punter for us. Happily have him back. Rick Lovato, the long snapper. I don't know if he's a good long snapper now, but don't watch. But I didn't see any bad snaps or miscommunication on special teams. So hell yeah, Rick Lovato, get back on the squad next year. And the next one, I have Alberto Quabanon. Probably a lot of people don't even they're like, Alberto Quabanon's on the Eagles? I forgot. So we traded for him just before the season. He didn't even really play. I think he ended on injured reserve. I don't really know the whole story, but I still think he's an athletic freak that, especially Stoll is another guy who's a restricted free agent that I'm not super keen on needing to bring back. And Goddard's getting a little older. I think Albert O is a dude I'm willing to re-sign for a 1 or 2 year deal, like a little prove it deal, and say, hey man, listen, you're a freak, but we want to see some production. Give him an offseason in this new offense. Kellen Moore likes to use his tight ends. We saw it with him in Dallas. We saw it with him in LA with the Chargers last year, like Gerald Everett and Donald Parham. So yeah, I would happily bring back Albert O on a little prove it deal. Just see if we can finally reach that potential. We did trade. I mean, it was like a 7th and 6th round pick swap. It wasn't really a big trade, but I'd like to see if maybe he could do something because I was a fan of that trade, and I want to see. Next up, we have the let walk section. So those are my resign guys. Now the guys that I think we should let walk, and we're gonna start right off with a heater. I think we should let DeAndre Swift walk, man. I think he's a good running back. I think he made a lot of big plays for the Eagles this season, but I think he's going to be asking for a decent amount of money, and I don't know if I'd be willing to pay that, and I also don't know how well of a fit he might be with some of the Kellen Moore. I think he would be a good fit, but I think he was more, that Nick Sirianni kind of offense that they want to run, and if we're not going to utilize Swift as like a if we're not going to utilize him as like a 5 catches, 15 carries a game kind of guy, I don't know why we'd pay money for that. I'd rather just keep Kenny Gainwell, draft a running back in the mid rounds, and just kind of roll with that. Another dude, I'll talk about a guy I would be happy trying to sign in free agency to kind of do that too, but that would be cheaper. But I just think Swift is probably going to ask for a decent amount of money. He's a Pro Bowler this year, so probably going to ask for a decent amount of money. I'm just not willing to pay that if I'm the Eagles. So Swift, I'm letting walk. Mariota, I'm letting walk. Not a shock. Everyone in Philly Nation, with the minute Mariota stepped on the field in I think it was the Cowboys game when Jalen Hurts got hurt, we were like, oh, our season's over. Like, Mariota can rock. Maybe Tanner McKee, I think, can be our backup quarterback. He showed some signs of preseason, but we'll see. Boston Scott, sorry to let him go, but I think it's time for Boston Scott. He's been great for us, the giant killer. I'll always remember Boston Scott as a legend, but I think it's time for him to move on. Rashad Penny, I mean, we didn't use him, so let him walk. Next guy I've let walk is Quez. I mean, we have given Quez every opportunity to step up in this offense and do something, and he just lets us down every single time, man. I was really rooting for Quez, and it's just, from like the drop in the Super Bowl and like the Seattle game when we are going to him deep and he just doesn't even try for the ball. This dude's like dropping everything. I mean, we've given Quez plenty of opportunity to step up and take over as like that third receiver, and like you get a game like the Buccaneers game, in the playoffs, AJ Brown's out. Quez, can you step up, be that number 2? Devontae did more than enough as the number 1. Can Quez step up to be that number 2? No, he could. I think Olamide Zaccheaus played better than Quez, and that's why I'm re-signing OZ. I'm gonna let Quez walk. Julio, I mean, he was always just kind of a one-year guy, so obviously we're gonna let him walk. Zach Cunningham, I'm not letting Howie Roseman come to the podium and say, I think Zach Cunningham played well for us. And like, get out of here, man. Cunningham didn't, like, he had a couple good plays, but I'm not re-signing. If the Eagles come back next season with Nakobe Dean and Zach Cunningham, say, well, they played well last year, I think it was more some other stuff in the defensive coordinator. Get out of here, man. Shaq Leonard, it sucks to watch Shaq Leonard. I we gotta let him walk in. That one hurts because like dude was so good back in Indianapolis, but he just, with his injuries and his age, you can see his athleticism was just taking a step back. You can tell he still got it. Like up here, Shaq still got it, but just physically, I just don't think he has it anymore, which sucks to see because he was such a good player back then. But yeah, I let him walk. Bradley Roby, I mean, we weren't even really playing him that much anyway, so he's walking. Justin Evans got hurt early on, never really saw the field the rest. He'll walk. And then Jack Stoll, he's a restricted free agent, so my guess is he probably returns. But, I mean, if someone wants to offer Stoll, I'm not fighting to keep Jack Stoll. I think he's a solid blocker, but I just think in the pass game, it just doesn't bring really anything. So that's why I'd rather go with a guy like Albert O, who can maybe bring more in the passing game. So I would personally rather keep Jack Stoll, or personally rather keep Albert Okwebe. It was really between me. It was Albert O and Jack Stoll. I think we keep one of them, let one of them walk. For me, I'd slightly in Albert O just because he has that receiving upside that I think can make more of a difference than Jack Stoll. So that's where I'm going with my let it walk. Now let's go ahead and get into free agency and trade targets. Going into some guys I think the Eagles should sign in free agency this offseason. My first one, I was talking about Swift Walk, another guy. Running back, I would like to see. We saw him kind of take a chance on a guy like Rashad Penny this year. I wouldn't mind taking a chance on J.K. Dobbins this year. I mean, it's probably just going to be like a 1-year deal with J.K. Dobbins if the Ravens don't try and re-sign him, but he's coming off an injury. I mean, every time J.K. Dobbins has been healthy, he's looked good. I mean, he was looking incredible to start that game against the Texans at the beginning of this year, and then he, of course, got hurt, and he's just, I feel so bad for J.K. Dobbins, man. He's a good player, but he just can't get away from injury. So that's why if we're just taking a 1-year flyer on J.K. Dobbins, he's a dude I personally would like to sign in off-season. And then at receiver, I wanted to get some more kind of rotational receivers because I don't want to roll in with just like Devontae, AJ, OZ, and like Britton Covey. I want to get some more rotational. 2 dudes I'm going to highlight as guys I think the Eagles could sign as some rotational guys. Or DJ Chark, I thought for everything that was going wrong in that Carolina offense, I think DJ Chark shined and had some good plays. Obviously, that Antoine Winfield fumble out of the end zone wasn't his brightest moment, but he had some really good plays and really good catch. I still think he's got some juice in him if he's a guy we'd like to bring in as a rotational guy with OZ at wide receiver 3. And then Kendrick Bourne's another dude who, like I said, we're just bringing these dudes in to like fight for wide receiver 3 with Olamide Zaccheaus. So it's not like I'm going for big money, but just a little small contract for DJ Chark, Kendrick Bourne are two dudes I think could fit in with the Eagles well. Especially part of the reason I like DJ Chark is he's a guy who can play outside, and then Kellen Moore can get more creative, throwing AJ Brown and Devontae Smith in the slot, giving them some preferable matchups, running some crossers. Hopefully, I know Nick Sirianni doesn't really know what a crosser is, but Kellen Moore definitely knows what a crosser is. So Kellen Moore is really creative, getting Keenan Allen in and out of the slot and moving him around. I think with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, he can be more creative there. And then like DJ Chark, like I said, guy we know that can play outside if you want to be more creative inside there. So those are two receivers I like. And then if Fletcher Cox retires, a guy I'd like to see them maybe go after is Raekwon Davis. He had a kind of up and down year, but I thought overall he was solid for the Dolphins. Played with Vic Fangio. I don't know if he was one of the dudes that didn't like Vic Fangio, but if he was fine with Vic Fangio, Raekwon Davis, if Fletcher Cox retires, I think could be. If Fletcher Cox comes back, I don't think we need to really spend money at D tackle. We'll have Carter, Milton Williams, Jordan Davis, Fletcher Cox. That's 4 dudes. Maybe draft another dude, but I thought Tui Pelotu also was solid at nose, and then Ojimo. So like if Cox comes back, I don't think we need a target D tackle, but if he retires, guy like Raekwon Davis, I don't think would be a bad kind of depth D tackle signing. And then the two of the bigger guys I think is Patrick Queen. I think is the dude the Eagles. I just saw a report this morning that he's expected to hit full free agency. Listen, if you don't want to draft a linebacker in like the top 50, which I know he doesn't want to, just go sign Patrick Queen. It's going to cost a little bit of money, yes, but like this Vic Fangio defense plays heavy on linebackers because you're dropping those 2 safeties back. What happened when you have 2 safeties back? Playing kind of a shell defense, what is everyone going to attack? The linebacker, the middle of the field. We saw it in like the Niners game. They torched us in the middle of the field. The Cowboys torched us in the middle of the field. So you got to spend money if you want to be successful in the middle of the field. You can't just keep rolling in these rookies and these July signings. Go sign Patrick Queen. He was a hell of a player for the Ravens over there. And if he's going to hit free agency, he's going to be the best linebacker you're going to get your hands on in free agency. Don't go with these Devin White types. Just go get Patrick Queen, a guy you know is a really good linebacker. Go spend some money. Another guy that I don't know if he's going to hit free agency. I've heard some reports that he could, some that the Panthers might re-sign. But Frankie Louvu, if we don't want to go for Patrick Queen, I think Patrick Queen's a step above Louvu in terms of like who I'd rather. But Louvu's still a really good linebacker. I think one of those two dudes, if Howie Roseman doesn't want to draft a dude in like the top 50, and really there's only 2 dudes, we'll get into it. I don't know if I'm going to draft. I haven't done my mock draft yet, but you were looking like Edgerrin Cooper, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. are the only dudes I'm like, yeah, those dudes would be like top 50 guys that I'd be fine if we didn't get a linebacker. If we're not getting one of those 2 dudes or we're not making some splash trade, Patrick Queen or Frankie Louvu, we need to get one of those 2 because we can't just keep pulling out the linebackers. So listen, Howie, just sign Patrick Queen, then you don't have to worry about drafting a top 50 linebackers. I know you don't want to. So there we go. And then I want to look at some safety depth, maybe 2 if we wanted some guys. I put down Geno Stone and Jalen Mills, 2 kind of depth dudes. Geno Stone coming over also from the Ravens, had a pretty solid year. Could be kind of a rotational guy because Sidney Brown tore his ACL or Achilles, one of the 2, against the Giants last season. So he's probably going to miss a decent chunk of this year. So I kind of want some more depth. Bring back Jalen Mills. I wouldn't mind. Kind of a guy, versatile kind of guy. Eagles legend, but he can kind of come down, play a little corner, play a little safety. Eagles fans know Jalen Mills. I don't got to explain him. Then Geno Stone was another solid kind of versatile safety for the Ravens this past year. So those are my kind of depth. Like I said, the Eagles aren't going to make any splash free agent signings. I don't think there's a lot of splash free agency signings that make sense because a lot of the big free agents are going to be, like Kirk Cousins, Mike Evans, T. Higgins, just not like kind of positions the Eagles really need. I actually didn't put him down here, but I think Hunter Henry's another dude if we want to spend a little more money at tight end. He's not going to be huge, but Hunter Henry could be another good tight end because I think Kellen Moore is going to want to run 12 personnel kind of stuff. I know it wasn't huge 12 personnel, but you did see Parham and Everett getting involved in for the Chargers with him last year. So 12%, I think we need to step up at that second tight end. So like Hunter Henry's another dude I wouldn't mind if we brought over. But like I said, not big. There are two dudes that I don't think are gonna hit like full free agency, but if they do, the two dudes, I think the Eagles, I'm like, hey, give them what they want because they would change this team. Would be L'Jarius Sneed for the Chiefs. Like I said, don't think he's gonna hit free agency, but if he does, Howie Roseman, get the paybook open because we need to bring Sneed here. He would be a perfect kind of dude for this defense to bring over. He's first. Then Antoine Winfield, another dude. If Tampa lets Antoine Winfield walk, they're crazy. But I would love to. I would happily pay Antoine Winfield top of the market safety money to come over here because this dude's a game changer. Like this dude knows how to hit the ball out. I mean, whether it's against Desmond Ridder and the Falcons knocking it out at the back of the end zone for the touchback, knocking out DJ Chark's hands. You know, Antoine Winfield just made plays everywhere you looked. He's one of the top safeties in the league. So if either one of those two hit free agency, those are the two dudes I'm like, hey, I said the rest of the dudes are kind of small money. You're not paying top of the market. So I guess the three dudes I'm like, hey, Howie Roseman, you spend on those dudes are Patrick Queen, L'Jarius Sneed, and Antoine Winfield. None of them are like huge we need to get, but those are just some dude. Those two especially are dudes I'd be willing to spend money on if the Eagles want to go down that route. Anyways, that's the signings. Now, a couple trade targets. It's hard to tell like who's going to be available because it all kind of depends on like, where the team drafts, where they sign a free agency, and these like guys start kind of coming available. But a couple trade targets I just want to keep our eyes on. One is Jabril Peppers. If the Patriots really kind of, if the Patriots really kind of want to just reset with Gerard Mayo and kind of do that whole thing, Jabril Peppers, a versatile safety that I think could be good in a Vic Fangio scheme. I would happily bring him over. And then Justin Simmons, another safety. He played with Vic Fangio down there in Denver for a while and had a lot of success. I know you're kind of just like, hey, we just signed Byard. But I mean, Byard, like they're both like veteran safeties. Byard looks like he doesn't really have it anymore like he used to. Whereas Justin Simmons, I think last year in Denver showed that he still has it. So I wouldn't mind bringing over Justin Simmons if he's cheap. But I don't know if the Broncos would be willing to trade him. Then another Bronco is Baron Browning. I know he's been kind of injured. I don't think he gets a lot of reps in Denver that he should. I know he gets some reps, but I mean, he's an electric athlete, an incredible athlete, and has shown so many flashes in Denver at edge that if he becomes available, I would love for the Eagles to go target him. Another kind of situational pass rusher that can come in because we struggled with pass rush. We shouldn't have struggled pass rush. We have the dudes, but we weren't getting pressure, and Baron Browning knows I get pressure, so I would love bringing a guy like him in. Anyways, that is the offseason. Now we're going to go ahead and get into a mock draft. Before we get into the 7-round mock draft, let's go ahead and go over a couple draft needs I'm going to be targeting during this mock draft, and then we'll get into the actual draft. I think youth at tight end and running back is something that we need. Like I said, I want to bring in a tight end in this draft, kind of behind Dallas Goedert. This is a similar time where the Eagles drafted Goedert with Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz was a similar age, and we drafted Goedert. Goedert's at this similar age. I want to bring in I'm not saying we bring in like a top 50 tight end. I mean, maybe like Tavion Sanders if he falls in the second and they feel comfortable with that. I wouldn't mind that, but I'm thinking more like a later tight end and then a running back. I mean, it kind of depends on the board falls out, but probably like a third, fourth round running back. I think to bring in and have like him and Gainwell kind of rolling in the backfield, I wouldn't mind. O-line depth is always going to be an Eagles target. O-line and D-line depth is always going to be a target. I don't think D-tackle is very important for the Eagles, but edge depth and anywhere across the O-line really, whether it's like a first-round tackle or whether it's just kind of third, fourth-round interior guys to fill in some depth. And then I think we need big players at corner, safety, and linebacker. I think we need to bring in some big impact players at those positions early on in the draft. So those are my needs. Let's go ahead and wide receiver depth, depending on kind of how we go in free agency. But wide receiver depth too, I should mention. But let's go ahead and get right into the mock draft. All right, we got the PFF mock draft simulator loaded up here. We're on the pick at pick 22. I kind of went over with you guys my thought process. I'm going to take a little more time with some of these first couple picks. And then just remember when I get into the late round picks, those are just like flyers. So position, if you're like, hey, why'd you take a center in the late rounds? We already have our center. It's just depth, so don't get on my ass. But here, I'm looking at, first of all, tackle. That's one position I'm really looking at. I've heard a lot of buzz about Tyler Guyton. He's been in contact with Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson suggested him to Stoutland. So Tyler, if we want to go O-line, I think Tyler Guyton from Oklahoma. He's just a big physical athlete. He's got some refinement too in technique, but this dude gets after it. every report from the Senior Bowl is that this dude is competitive as hell. He's fighting on every rep. I think he'd be a great fit. So he's the guy at tackle. And then corner, another one I like, which is personally where I'm going to go. I could see Tyler Guyton, but I'm going to go Quinyon Mitchell. I think this dude, I don't think he's going to make it to 22 after this Senior Bowl week, because I did my mock draft. Go check out my mock draft. I did my last video on my channel if you haven't, but I did a full first round. I had him going a little later, and I was saying that this dude he played pretty much like exclusively off coverage at Toledo. So I was like a little worried, like you got to be able to press in the NFL if you want to go into it. And I was a little worried about that. We didn't really see him do that, but he went to the Senior Bowl and he was like one of the best press corners there. He was getting up in dudes' faces. He looked really comfortable, really physical and good in press coverage. And I mean, that was my main concern about him, and he just proved me wrong. So I think he's a hell of an athlete, really good player. He was by far the best corner at the Senior Bowl from everything I've seen. So we'll go ahead and get that in our building. I would happily have that. Now, up here at pick 50, a lot of different ways the Eagles could go. I like Xavier Worthy staring me at the face here. A deep threat. I mean, he's basically like I think Xavier Worthy could be what we hoped Quez Watkins would be. So I definitely wouldn't mind a guy like that. I think Ricky Pearsall, if we want to look at receivers, another dude that would be a good fit here. I think I'm going to go linebacker with my next pick, but maybe not right here. We went corner, so I don't have to go corner. But if we don't go corner in the first round, I think we could target a nickel guy in the second round. I think Mike Sainer still would be a perfect fit for the Eagles, kind of that replace Avonte Maddox, who's been injured so much and kind of getting up there at this point of his career. I think Mike Sainer still would be a great pick. But we already went corner in the first, so I'm not going to go that. No running backs I feel comfortable with. If we want to attack O-line, just some targets. I think you'd really attack interior line here if you're the Eagles. I think Christian Haynes would be the dude if we want to attack interior. He had a hell of a week at the Senior Bowl. But personally for me, I'm going to go ahead and get receiver. And like I said, this obviously, the free agency can change this, but I'm going to go Xavier Worthy. I just think his speed can bring a different element to this offense and just bring that deep threat that we've been hoping Quez Watkins could always turn into, but he just hasn't. We're going to go Xavier Worthy. He'd be a perfect fit with Devontae and A.J. Brown. Next up, we're going to go ahead and take a linebacker. I'm sick of this, Howie. If I have to take a linebacker in every single mock draft for you to either sign Patrick Queen or draft a linebacker, it'll be worth it. Now, this is hard for me because I personally prefer Edgerrin Cooper a little more to Jeremiah Trotter. I just think he's a little bit better of an athlete. And I mean, Edgerrin Cooper lays the boom, but Jeremiah Trotter, also son of legend Eagle Jeremiah Trotter, it kind of just fits. I'm going to take Jeremiah Trotter for the legacy, even though I do prefer Edgerrin Cooper. I mean, Jeremiah Trotter, his dad played for the Eagles, Jeremiah Trotter. Let's just go ahead and keep it in the family. We'll bring that in. Now, next up, at pick 97, I'm going to go ahead and take Darius Robinson here. He's a dude that I don't think he's going to be here. Darius Robinson is going to be a top 50 pick. So maybe I don't take him. He balled at the Senior Bowl. I mean, this dude was incredible. I think Darius Robinson, a dude that, like I said, there's some first round buzz for him now. So you know what? We're not going to take him because I think there's no way in hell he makes it to 97. So we're not going to take Darius Robinson. But just know I would take Darius Robinson if he was still there. We could target a corner or a running back here if we really wanted to. That's, we could target some D-line. We could take the running back. So we took our receiver, we took our linebacker, we took our corner, we filled some of the needs. I still think O-line is something we could use. I'm thinking about Zach Zinter here, a dude who got injured for Michigan near the end of his season, but a really good lineman, and he is a guy that he doesn't need to play right away, so his injury is not going to affect the Eagles because we're not drafting him to play right away. We're looking at running back. I still think there's a lot of depth at running back. I don't think we need to force a running back yet, in my opinion. Safety depth would definitely be important. I really like Dadrian Taylor Demerson. Saw him at the Shrine Bowl. I might actually take him. I also like Trey Taylor from Air Force. He's another baller. Those are guys I like at safety. We could still take a nickel guy, honestly, here. We took, Quinyon Mitchell, you assume plays outside. We still could use nickel corner. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and take Chris Abrams-Draymond. I think he's kind of the best player available. He'll be our nickel corner. A little bit smaller guy, but great athlete. He can play nickel. So, we take Quinyon Mitchell. He's, our outside guy. So, our outside corner, we got Eli Ricks, Darius Slay, Keely Ringo, and Quinyon Mitchell, assuming James Bradbury walks, which we let go of James Bradbury, which I think would happen. So, we have those dudes on the outside. And then now we have Chris Abrams-Drain and Avonte Maddox on the inside. I think that actually works well. So we get an outside and an inside dude. Now, back up here at pick one, I'm going to take a running back. I said I want another running back. I'm going to take Braylon Allen. He's a big running back. He's a good runner. I don't know how he's going to test, but he'd be a perfect fit with Kenny Gain. If Kenny Gain was your smaller pass-catching kind of guy, Braylon Allen's going to be your bigger kind of guy that can play. I think that's a perfect fit. Now at pick 163, I see the tight ends available. That I want to go ahead and get a tight end. For me, it's between – I want kind of a guy that can be more of a Y off kind of tight end, so he's going to play more off. He's going to be motioning back and forth. Dallas Goedert can be more your inline, especially with his blocking. I want a more tight end that can almost, slot receive, like a receiving, can kind of motion out to the slot. He's going to play off ball in your split zones and stuff. And for me, it's between Dallin Holker and Jaheim Bell. For me, I'm going to go with Holker. I really like Dallin Holker, man. I saw him at the Shrine Bowl too. This dude knows how to win. He's got good hands. He's a good athlete. Really, really good for Colorado State. I think he's going to keep rising, especially with the combine and stuff coming up, and I think he's going to be dude that not talked about a lot right now, but I think he'll keep rising. Get that behind Dallas Goedert. He's not going to take over for Dallas Goedert, but in the 12 personnel, I think he would fit really well. Jaheim Bell would be a great fit too. Jaheim Bell is exactly what I'm running. More of a run after catch kind of bowling ball dude. Jaheim Bell got a lot of touches and different screens and stuff, so he's a dude that I definitely think would fit, but I just personally prefer Holker just a little bit. Next up, I pick 172. Now we're in the scheme of just getting depth. We're just getting depth, getting high upside dudes that we think can turn into something here. Anthony Gold's a dude that I think I've taken in a couple mock drafts as he's just more of a return guy. I do think Britton Covey did good, but if we want just a great athlete, Anthony Gold, he had a sick punt return in the Shrine game if you saw, but he's a dude I've taken a couple times. Maybe not this time, but do that. If you're looking for a return specialist kind of guy, I would definitely look at him. Let's go ahead and look at – I definitely want to get some more O-line help. I can't say I've done a lot of deep scouting on O-line. But out of the dudes left that I do like Coker. So we're going to go ahead and get – we haven't gotten any tackles left. Andrew Coker from TCU. He was one of the leaders in that TCU locker room on that national championship run. Came back, played another year, just a big, solid tackle. He's a dude that can step in, if we have injuries, kind of play that Jack Driscoll role if we don't re-sign him. So I'm happy with that. Get some help at that O-line. Now, we've attacked pretty much everywhere. Let's go and see what kind of depth we can get on the D-line here at this point. We got Cedric Johnson. Jalen Harrell's had a good week at the Senior Bowl. I like him. Miles Murphy, big interior defensive lineman, had a good week at the Shrine Bowl. Evan Anderson. Gabe Hall's a dude I think I would like late in the draft. He's a big body that I think could fit well as a depth. We're going to go ahead and get Jalen Harrell. I've seen some clips of him playing pretty well at the Senior Bowl. And, hey, the Eagles have taken the thing of drafting those Georgia boys. Hey, Michigan's took up this year. They won the Natty. Let's just keep national champions. Come to Philly. Go ahead and get a Michigan dude. We drafted – so we actually haven't drafted a safety, and I just saw Kenny Logan stare me in the face. I do like Kenny Logan a lot. He just came up staring me at the face. I think linebacker, I still think you get more depth. Curtis Jacobs is a solid athlete. For my money, let's just go ahead and grab Kenny Logan. He just came up. We need some more safety depth. Like I said, Sidney Brown's injured. He's probably going to miss most seasons. So you got Reed and maybe still Byard. We'll see what happens with Byard if they kind of let him walk. But we definitely need some more depth there. So Kenny Logan, not he's going to start day one, but good depth. So this is the mock draft. We kind of hit a lot of different positions. Let me know what you guys thought of this Eagles offseason. This is our route back to Super Bowl contention after a very disappointing end of the year. Let me know what you thought of the picks. Other guys you're keeping your eye on. And let me know any late round guys you think that would be a good fit with the Eagles. I'm still watching dudes. Like I said, this is very early. These late round picks, you're just going to keep learning more and more. But, yeah, let me know other guys you think I should take a look at. And I'll see you guys for the next one. Thanks for watching.